Hi guys, so today we're going to go through the mini quiz that has kind of a concept mix-up. It's got both derivatives and finding the antiderivative by doing separation of variables. So we got a whole bunch of different things going on with this problem. It looks really short, but it's actually a little bit misleading because it's got some challenges in there. All right, so for the first thing, we've got f prime of x equals x times the square root of f of x. So if I'm trying to find f double prime of 3, I'm going to first need to find what f double prime of x is. So I'm going to start out with A, finding f double prime of x. All right, so now when we look here, it is x out in front. So if we're going to take the derivative, product rule, x, v is equal to, and now I'm going to change that square root to f of x to the 1/2. All right, so that's looking a little bit v shape. I'm trying to make it a u. U prime equals derivative of x is 1. V prime is chain rule. Take the 1/2, bump it down. Keep the inside the same. Subtract 1 from the exponent times, that should have a 1 up there, the derivative of the inside, so f prime of x. Okay? So when we do f double prime, it's going to be u prime v. So f of x to the 1/2, or the square root of f of x, plus uv prime. So we've got 1/2 x f prime of x times f of x to the negative 1/2. And I just moved that f prime of x out in front, like right up here. I just moved that out in front. Okay? So now that we have that, we have to figure out what f double prime of 3 is. So f of 3 raised to the 1/2 plus 1/2 times 3 times f prime of 3 times f of 3 to the negative 1/2. All right, so we've got to do some filling in with values. So I'm going to just kind of point out certain things. It gives us that f of 3 is 25. So that's right there, and that's right there. So I can fill in 25 there. And then to find f prime of 3, which is right here, I can find what f prime of 3 is by just plugging that into my derivative that I have right there. So it's going to equal 3 times the square root of f of 3. So it's going to equal 3 times the square root f of 3, once again, is there, 25. So it's going to equal 3 times the square root of 25 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. All right, so I'm going to fill in all my knowns now. All right, so I'm going to just switch back to the color. So we've got f double prime of 3 is equal to 25 to the 1/2 plus 1/2 times 3 times 15 times 25 to the negative 1/2. All right. So doing a little bit of simplifying. Remember, guys, if this were the AP, we can also box that in. This is my final answer. But I'm just going to kind of go through the process of what the final solution would be, just one numeric value. But you guys can absolutely box this in right here. This is your final answer, AP style. So square root of 25 is 5 plus 3 times 15 is 45, so 1/2 times 45 times 25 to the negative 1/2. That's the square root of 25, which is 5, but then the negative says move it into the denominator, 1/5. All right, so we've got 5 plus, and then 45 times 1/5, that's going to be 9. So 9 over 2. So this is going to equal 19 over 2. Final solution. Okay? All right. So that was, like I said, it was a lot going on with that, but it had kind of the idea of chain rule, derivatives, and that type of stuff. Okay, on to B. We are going to need to separate the variables with B. All right, so we've got dy dx equals x times the square root of y. Okay, so I'm going to just erase these last couple steps so I have some space to do this, because I have a feeling that I write really large and I want to be able to kind of do that. All right, so I'm going to just change the color of the pen so that I'm now working with different color to differentiate between the two. All right, so I'm going to separate the variables by multiplying by dx and dividing by the square root of y. And then to remind you again, I multiply by the dx, so it's going to be x dx on that side. All right, so I do just a little bit of rewriting so that it'll make life easier with finding the antiderivative. So I'm going to do this 1 over radical y is y to the negative 1/2 dy equals x dx. Okay, so we're going to find the antiderivative. So add 1 to the exponent, divide by the new exponent is like multiplying by 2, equals, add 1 to the exponent, divide by the new exponent. Don't forget, plus c. All right, so at this stage of the game, I say, all right, can I plug in my initial condition of 3, 25? Yeah, it's not too bad. I can plug in 3, 25 here. So 2 times 25 to the 1/2 equals 1/2 times 3 squared plus c. Okay, so we've got the square root of 25 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, equals 3 squared is 9, 9 times 1/2 is 9 over 2, plus c. All right, so we're going to solve for c, so minus 9 over 2, so that's 20 over 2 minus 9 over 2, 11 over 2 equals c. Okay, so now we fill that in to the c right here, okay, because that's the equation that I plugged in 8.2. So I'm going to plug in for c right here. So I'm going to bring that up to this side. So we've got 2y to the 1/2 equals 1/2 x squared plus 11 over 2, which is what I found c is. All right, now my last step, I want to solve for y. So I'm going to divide everything by 2, which is like multiplying by 1/2. So y to the 1/2 equals 1/4 x squared plus 11 over 4. And then this is saying the square root of y. So the way that we get rid of the square root is by squaring both sides. So the square root and squared cancel. Y equals 1/4 x squared plus 11 over 4 squared. Final solution. All right, so that's my particular solution to the differential equation. All right, guys.